Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to a modern RPG. And very modern it is too, because this week I'd like to look at Cthulhu Eternal. Now this is an open source version of Lovecraftian horror. They make sure never to mention Call of Cthulhu, but basically it's Call of Cthulhu. Now I'm going to look through the Jazz Age version, which is your standard Call of Cthulhu setting. But there's also two other versions available. There's Modern Age here, and there's the Victorian era one. But basically these align. So Jazz Age is your standard Call of Cthulhu 1920s setting, Modern Age is Call of Cthulhu now, and Victorian era is your Cthulhu by Gaslight setting. And this is where I'm a little annoyed by these three versions, because they are sticking so close to Call of Cthulhu without wanting to be Call of Cthulhu that it's a bit annoying. I covered the sourcebook for Call of Cthulhu fairly recently, where it had alternate settings. It had the Elizabethan one, where during the Great Plague, people are terrified of foreigners, they're terrified of the plague, they're willing to follow the elder gods to try and save themselves from this. And there was the Inquisition setting as well. So people are so scared of the Inquisition coming and calling them devil worshippers, they are joining cults for protection and basically following the elder gods and performing magic, which means the Inquisition has proof that devil worshippers exist. A really interesting idea for a setting. There's also the futuristic one, where humans are going out into space and starting to encounter the elder species, the fungi from Yuggoth and all that, where they are out in space. These are really interesting ideas, which are equally as powerful as 1920s modern and Victorian. But Cthulhu Eternal's just gone with those. They haven't stretched themselves at all. But it kind of makes a lot of sense, because there's not a whole lot of setting here. But let's have a look at the Jazz Age version. So, Cthulhu Eternal system reference document for Jazz Age is basically a standard 1920s version of Cthulhu, which is when H.P. Lovecraft was around and when all his stories were set because it was current day to him. It's obviously referencing Providence on the cover, which links in a lot to a lot of the stuff Lovecraft wrote. Inside, it had a nice cover, but inside there's no images. This is just a system reference document. So this is the rules. There's nothing else in it. Which why it makes a lot of sense to have these queue up to the different versions of Call of Cthulhu. Because you're not going to have any background information in here. So, flicking through. Lovecraftian investigations in the Jazz Age. It gives you some reference, so Frank Belknap Long, Robert Bloch, Robert E. Howard, Henry Kuttner, Manly Wade Wellman. I'm afraid I've only heard of 3 of those. But we've got other things, TV series you could use as references: Boardwalk Empire, Carnival, Peaky Blinders, Miller's Crossing, Something Wicked This Way Comes, Horror Express, The Great Gatsby. But that's about all the background you're going to get. We're straight onto the rules. Now, I won't dig into the rules too closely. I'll do a rules breakdown, which will come out this Friday for that. But it's a percentile-based system. And we go very quickly onto how to create a protagonist. And like Call of Cthulhu, if we go through the stuff, we get archetypes. So we've got alienist psychiatrist, antiquarian book dealer, artist craftsperson, bon vivant occult dabbler. And so on and so forth. Criminal gangster, doctor, nurse, historian, genealogist. Just offering lots of different careers. So, the starting place for your investigator. What they do as they're living. We've got adversity skill points. You can create a background for your character where you are coming from a background of adversity. You've got problems that you're growing up, which will make your character more interesting, so you get benefited by having extra skill points that you've got through that. A very simple version of advantages and disadvantages, basically. Talking through the skills, ratings, and there's a lot of rules in here, because this is all it is. You've got the long descriptions for skills. So your administration, your alertness, anthropology. But we will rattle through all these. We've got the game itself, how to use skills, resolving a test without dice. How much skill does task require? How much stat does the task require? Bonuses and penalties, success, failures, etc., etc. How to do opposed tests, pursuit, chases and all the like. Your willpower points, your combat. So you've got different types of maneuvers you can do. You can aim, you can attack, you can do call shots, you can disarm, you can dodge, you can escape, you can fight back, you can move, you can pin someone, you can wait, or you can do anything else. Suggest drink a vial full of a glowing liquid, throw open a unlocked door, activate a mechanism, grab a rope, pick something up, stand up from prone position. Anything takes a moment's concentration. We've got attack rolls, how to make them. We've got how to make defense rolls, how to defend yourself in combat. We've got the damage system here. Lethality ratings, explosions, how to deal with fear in combat, because obviously Call of Cthulhu is very psychological, so fear is a large part. Protection in combat. Fighting huge monsters, transcendent monsters. Armor-piercing weapons. It's really going into lots of pieces of information. Natural poisons, sample diseases, different types of equipment, hit points and armor. Then we're on to the sanity, so lots of suggestions for, seeing a corpse walk loses you 0 sanity if you succeed a sanity test, or 1d6 sanity if you fail it. And then you can start to pick up insanity and disorders, temporary insanities. Then we're going to have the list of disorders coming up, mania, megalomania, melancholia, multiplex personalities, obsession, paranoia, schizoid, shell shock. All the lovely things which make Call of Cthulhu quite interesting as your character picks up all these mental problems. Catatonia, delusions, how to resist insanity, how to recover it. Personal pursuits, because basically you've got personal resources. Rather than having a set amount of money that you spend, you have personal resources points which you spend during the adventure. And when they're all spent, you can't get anything further during the adventure. The larger amount of resources you've got, the more things you can buy each adventure. And you've got your contacts as well, so getting in favour with people is a large part of the character growth in the system. Improving skills, maddening revelations, researching the mythos, skill increases you get from that, performing rituals, sanity costs to ritual participants, lots and lots of sections on magic and how your sanity is going to interact with all this magical stuff you're seeing. Things which were not meant to know. I kind of stumbled over that. Game building resources, so how to design new archetypes, starting bombs, starting resources, skills with elevated starting ratings, translating creatures from D100 games. Game moderators may find statistics for horrific creatures and supernatural effects in the rules or supplements published for other D100 Lovecraftian horror RPGs. In most cases, converting horror creatures found in other D100 games for use in Cthulhu Eternal game is straightforward. So they're explaining that the rules are basically compatible with Call of Cthulhu without wanting to name Call of Cthulhu. I'm trying to see where it says it makes a point of, when translating statistics from the aforementioned 7th edition game, so Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, being very clear on what we're talking about here. But it's got steps for converting stuff across, and then as we get further on, we've got converting things from Gumshoe, which I wasn't aware people still played. I thought that game had died off in the 80s, really. But it does kind of suit, because Gumshoe is hard-boiled detective stuff and would match up with Call of Cthulhu 1920s setting very nicely. tables on how to convert stuff, and then we've got the character sheets. And you can see they are very familiar to a Call of Cthulhu one. You've got your sanity in the middle, your hit points, your skills down below with checkboxes for when you've used them. Your protagonist story so far. It looks very nice. For some reason this border looks stretched out, and that is equally bad on the character sheets for the other games. But the bit inside the border is very nicely laid out indeed. Here's the one for Cthulhu Eternal Victorian era. As I said, the borders look stretched out. I'm sure these aren't supposed to be these wide arcs. The borders are done terribly. The typesetting and everything inside is absolutely lovely. And the high point of the 3 character sheets, the Modern Age Cthulhu one, which is kind of a circuit board, so it's not stretched or anything. I like the look of this one best of all, although the typesetting perhaps isn't as lovely as on the other ones, but the border's really nice. Then we've got the Open Gaming License as the very back page. Various copyright notices. So that's Cthulhu Eternal. As I said, it's quite interesting. As a fan of Call of Cthulhu, I did enjoy having a look through this. But I can't really recommend it that highly to anybody who doesn't know Cthulhu, who's looking for a way in, especially because this is open source, so freely accessible. I can't guarantee this. I can't recommend this at all. But if you're looking for a different spin on the Cthulhu rules, then have a look. Anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough as usual. So thank you very, very much for watching. But most, as always, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.